Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? This is New Era Gardener, and I'm going to make some quick active biochar. And I'm just going to go over what I put in mine. Everybody can do it different. I know a lot of people activate their biochar by using compost tea, using fish emulsion that they might aerate for a little bit just to liven it up, and then they pour that into their biochar. I do wet my biochar after it's gotten done with making it. I quench it, and then it sucks up a lot of the water, which is fine for me. That's how I do it, quick and easy. Then I crush it and I separate it. I separate mine into two different factors. I do mine one as a fine biochar, which has flakes. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but that's got flakes and powder. That's what I make my fine biochar. This is 3 parts biochar, and I just put it in. It's a little big of a piece in there. So that's all I do. All right. That is actually 4 parts biochar. 4 parts biochar that has been moistened already. I put it when I crush it and separate it. I put it in a plastic bag. I keep it airtight so that the moisture that's in it does not escape, so that I'm able to use it and it's already wet. All right, already moist. I shouldn't say wet. I'm gonna go over some of the things I use. Some you just put in what you want. There's always, it's just like in the gardening and compost, with the microbes that are in the dirt and in your compost, in your worm castings, you always want to give it something to eat. And sugar is always a good source. I don't use I do use a liquid. I shouldn't say don't use a liquid. I use that when I'm feeding my plants outside in my compost bin. But when I make my biochar, I use granulated molasses. And that I don't really measure out. I put a couple of handfuls in to feed the microbes based on whatever amount I'm using. And then once I put that in, I mix that up throughout. And as you can see, I mean, you can't see it, it's already kind of melting into the biochar once you add it from the moisture that's in it. So, and then from there you can think, if you think that's enough, then don't add any more. If you want to add more, you can add more. But for me, I'm actually going to add one more handful to it. That's it. Mix it up. Get all the corners, get it all incorporated pretty good. And that's it. So now I go on to my next one, which to me is one of the most important. It also feeds the microbes and the bacteria that grows in, is kelp. This is kelp, and I just add a couple of scoops, full scoops of it in. And I know it's probably sound like a broken record, but to me, what you put in is what you get out. So I'm also going to add a scoop of alfalfa meal. That is something they're going to also break down and get nutrients off it. It's also going to help your Bio-Char activate. So I mix that up. And sometimes I don't add the molasses because I had other things for food, like the kelp is a food source for the bacteria and the fungi. And if I don't add that, sometimes I add the crab meal. Crab meal also has, the crab meal I use also has molasses in it also. One of the components of it is in there is the molasses. It's more powdered than anything, but it's still in there. It still gives it a sugar source. All right, so that's what I put in. These four things that I'm putting in right now is what I add into every single one. This is azomite, also known as rock dust. I know that 3 of these scoops is going to be 1 part. I try to mix it up really good. And you know, sometimes 2 parts, well, not 2 parts, but 2 cups is enough. I mean, as you can see, it's turning whitish gray, and that's the azomite. Azomite acts as a food also, and a nutrients for your plants and for your soil. We all know if we're using it in our garden, you're putting it in at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season. We also know that it has tons of other minerals in it and trace elements that is good for the plants, good for the soil. So it's a good thing to add. I mix it up really good. I make sure it's incorporated very, very well. I'm not gonna add the 3rd in there. This looks good to me. And so I'm gonna leave it like that. All right, so like I said, those are the 4 things I add in all the time, okay, to make my active biochar, okay. Sometimes, just to supercharge it, besides the other item, I also add just a little bit of alpaca. Because think about it, the alpaca has come out, its manure has come out. It does have some trace elements in it. The bacteria is still alive in it. I don't use too much. I don't want it stinking, even though anybody who has used the alpaca, it doesn't have a smell. So I added just a little bit, just also to feed the microbes that are going to be alive in there. So that's what I do. And then the last ingredient that's always a must. Let me grab it. Oh. It's flour. You can use bran flour. You can use wheat flour. I tend to use the wheat flour. I put enough in. That's the other part of the food. That's the other part of the food that you're putting into your biochar to activate it, to get the microbes feeding on it. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to add the rest of this. Take that paper out. Good mix. Mix it up really good. That's mixed really good. I mean, you could feel the difference. The flour adds a different silkiness to it. But that's going to be in there. And then we're going to add the worm castings. The worm castings is what rockets it to being active. These are my worm castings. I mean, just look at those worm castings. Those are worm castings. I mean, they are just so fluffy. This is probably one part, maybe a part and a half of worm castings. Those are some beautiful worm castings. And then you just want to mix it up. And this is what's going to also repel to just activating this biochar. It's just going to make because the worm castings, fresh worm castings, have a lot of bacteria in them, a lot of micro activity in them. It's just going to skyrocket it to activate it even more. And then that's what I do. I let it sit for 2 weeks. If it sits longer, that's even better. But after, you'll know how active your biochar is. You know, sometimes you can look at your biochar in a couple of days and it's starting to build a crust. The microbes and the biology is just going crazy. It's multiplying and just growing, and just going crazy, just exploding. And that's what you want. I mean, that's all I do. That's my active biochar. This is what I sell on eBay as fine active biochar. And it's beautiful. It works extremely well. So those are the ingredients that I use. Then I put it in this container and I keep it closed, airtight. Here is some active biochar. That's active biochar. Do you see the fungi on that? That's the biology just exploding on that. Excuse me. That's active. That's what you want it to look like. The fungi just growing on it. That's active. That's one of them. This is the second one. Look at that. Just I mean, you could see the fungi on this. Now, I'll tell you something about this one. One of the videos that I was gonna post, I actually showed this, okay? That video was made 2 days ago, maybe even yesterday or day before. That, I went through this, mixed it up. Same thing with the other one. I mixed it up. This is the fungi growing back on it so quickly. That's how active this biochar is. This is fine. This is my fine biochar. I mean, that's only a couple of days and it's already growing back on it. Just a couple of days. This is why I say, you know, I mix it up. When the fungi is on there, I give it a couple of days or a week, or I may not mess. Once I make it, you know, I don't mess with it. I always try to have 2 or 3 buckets because I do sell quite a bit of it, and I want to show appreciation to everybody that does purchase it from me. I thank you for purchasing it, and this stuff works extremely well. Just nice. And like I said, that if I let this sit for a couple of days again, it will start to grow again, and it will start to turn black like that, where the other stuff is gray, and just the moisture in it coming out from the fungi and everything else is going to turn it black. All right, so that's how I do my active biochar. You should try it yourself. It's not that hard. You do have to buy the minerals to put in it, and that's the most you have to do if you're making your own biochar. And like with my biochar, active biochar, you have to. It's trial and error. I remember the first couple times I made it, it did not get the fungi, did not, but it got solid, but it did not really get all the fungi on it. And I was like, all right, there is bacteria building in it because it became one solid piece. So there is fungi in it, but how am I going to make that fungi and the bacteria really go crazy? So that's when I started messing with different minerals that I put in it. I know the fact of the, feeding the bacteria. So I started using the molasses, and I think the molasses is one of the things that also helps it out with it. So give it a shot yourself. It's some pretty good stuff. Personally, I mean, I if I had to say, I don't give instructions when I do sell it on how much you should use or what to mix it with. If I'm doing planting holes, I might take a handful and I put it in that hole, mix it with that dirt, and put it down. if I'm broadcasting it over the top, you know, I just broadcast it over the top and then just do it. But when I make my seedling mix, which I'll do again, then that's a little bit different. You play with it. They always say 5% of this is all you really want in your seedling mix or your transplant mix. So that one you have to be a little careful, because then it does nothing to the plant if you got too much in it. So it's trial and error, but I've always heard no more than 5% seems to be where it works out good. So, all right, so there we go. New Era Gardener NEG's homemade active biochar. Give it a try. Thanks for watching. Any comments or questions, feel free. I'm always open to suggestions and comments about what I got and what I do. Thanks.